Hey everyone, Guy here. So, this is a video that I wanted to script and have edited and whatnot, but really couldn't come up with anything that could describe how much I love Turner Classic Movies. This year, it's celebrating its 30th anniversary today of its launch in 1994 on April 14th. And for many people that do not know and have previously looked at the 40 favorite movies list, some would know I love these classic films. Everything dating back from the silent era to, let's say, the 60s. They're amazing, amazing vintage movies. Stuff I wouldn't have gotten into without the likes of Turner Classic Movies. And pretty much for the most part, all of my train ride began, for some people, when they were a kid. And this all pretty much began sometime in 2004, I believe, when I was at a friend's place and they were taping a movie off the channel, a science fiction film called It Came From Outer Space. And it was interesting. Interesting how there were movies made and they didn't have color in them. Fascinating. Then when it came to watching the channel on its own, that's pretty much where it began, where it took off. And it pretty much all started within 2006, 2005. Kind of been a long time. Just randomly flipping channels during the summer, seeing what was on. Musical popped up, Funny Face. Very rare film that ever pops up on the network, but whenever the chance comes, I'll watch it. It's pretty fun, it's comedic, it's overall pretty fun, I love the songs. But this is kind of big ramble, like I said, very unscripted. But there were many movies on this network that when I first saw them, I wouldn't have thought of something like HBO or AMC ever airing. All of these are all the classic movies that I watched on TCM. One that really delved me into the network was actually a film that I just randomly browsed one day on the channel. Just bored one evening, flipping through channels, I see Turner Classic Movies playing. Just a movie was about to begin, and they had Robert Osborne do the intro, because he was the primetime host, and the one thing that he did the intro on was this little film from 1961 called Pocket Full of Miracles. This, truth be told, I had never seen a movie like this, but I wouldn't have gotten into the network without it. But that's just not the other movie I wouldn't have gotten into without TCM. There is a magnitude of movies that, when I first saw them on Turner Classic Movies, that's when just instantly that spark of magic came on. And me giving an appreciation, every film from the very olden era, all the way up to 70s or 60s, that it wasn't limited to just family films. Stuff like Wizard of Oz, or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, or even the classic Disney films. Stuff like It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, North by Northwest, The 12 Angry Men, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, The Pink Panther. These movies, just as an example, they are why I appreciate movies. They're understandably why I have a love of them. A lot of these, of what I'm holding here, these are the movies And they're why I love Turner Classic Movies. Okay, maybe mine is Gone with the Wind, because this is a lengthy as hell film, but this is the one that started the network. Gotta give appreciation for that. But a lot of these were thanks to Turner Classic Movies. Stuff like King Kong right here, which is a technical marvel from RKO. Everything from like stop motion and the live action, like pairing those two, that was really good. There was The Day the Earth Stood Still. As much as like sci-fi is kind of a mixed bag for me alongside horror, The Day the Earth Stood Still, this was another like early instance of classic films. I may talk about this movie later just because of how brilliant I just love this movie. And there's multitude of films from this stack and a load of others that I could just ramble on all day and say, I just love this movie. Without Turner Classic Movies, I wouldn't have gotten into them. And most of these movies, like, even when I, like, was talking to a friend of mine online, talking about these older movies, some of them I got him into. Stuff like the classic Cary Grant stuff, his screwball comedies, sometimes, and I even got him into, potentially, like, within this stack, one of my all-time favorites. Now, the one thing that stood out to me, other than these movies right here, and it was a multitude of reasons why like, this channel became a big influence. Everything from, like, the way the logo is designed, the one that pops up every 30 minutes. Nowadays it's 20 minutes, but it used to be 30 minutes, I believe. Which is this character right here. I didn't think he had a name, but for years I called him Mr. Noir, because, well, it's a character that looked like he was out of a noir film. Though there were, I think, other times where it's like these other characters here popped up, because other than noir, somewhere around here, you also had the composer, you had the baseball, you had the driver, the pirate, the robot, King Kong right here, a firefighter, a doctor, the cowgirl. Everything about this network stood out to me. And for the most part, a majority of the movies I love all came from viewing this network. And there were a few instances where even a relative of mine, I'd have one of the movies on, like the classic Marx Brothers films, because at the time, like in middle school, I really wanted to see Duck Soup. And one day that movie came on, I plopped it on. It came to, like, the mirror scene, and then my relative's just like, why is it all silent? Where's the sound? And I'm like, that's kind of the key factor on what makes TCM special. The fact that it's like they keep the movies intact. They don't like grab some modified version, like a colorized version of, let's say, The Apartment or Arsenic and Old Lace. TCM ran on the basis of, we're going to play these older movies, but we're going to air them uncut and without commercials. And of course, to combat like just being like HBO, where they had to like try and assume a movie rating and everything, they use like the TV bumper, so they have to find themselves a TV rating equivalent. So like The Godfather, despite being an R-rated film, they had to classify it something like, not as TVMA because it's not hard or extreme, so they picked out like TV-14. They could go to like North by Northwest or The Apartment or It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. and just like think to themselves, okay, so potentially like we could give these a TV PG rating. We could give this one a TVG. We could give this one potentially a TV 14. Some of these, like, they could go up to TVMA. It's all over the place. Even, like, despite the fact they have to assume, like, TV ratings for them, they still push the limits on what makes the network, like, very, very, very special to begin with. Everything from the logo design to the personalities. Now, there were daytime hosts and primetime hosts. The one that's, like, pretty much a legend to the network is Robert Osborne. Without him, it almost felt like Turner Classic Movies didn't have a personality. Many other films, like, even I saw, like, maybe a brief glimpse of, that I would view years later, something like, what is it? And it was introduced through one of the word-of-mouth segments in between the channel, which was Grand Prix. And when that word-of-mouth popped up, I'm like, interesting. I'll set this to record and take a look at it. But the other thing that stood out, other than like them mirroring the older films and the film historians they bring on, like Ben Mankiewicz, whose family actually has a history in Hollywood. Joseph L. Mankiewicz, he's the one that directed, like, The Ghost and Mrs. Murray. Like, one of the most heartbreaking films that actually made me tear up. All thanks to this network. You also have Robert Osborne, who pretty much was, like, the Turner Classic Movies. Without Robert Osborne, it almost felt like the channel was dead and nothing. Like, the channel launched, they had like this special montage they set up for airing on the net montage, and then they had Robert Osborne introduce Ted Turner's favorite movie, Gone with the Wind. And he, pretty much when Robert Osborne said, "You're gonna love this network," and then he dives into, like, the facts and proofs and the legacy of the movie, that's when you know Turner Classic Movies is the prime network for seeing these films. What also makes it special, if you view my secondary channel, I also find like some like short films of interest, stuff like 24-Hour Alert or A Boy and His Dog, both films that were nominated for Academy Awards for Best Live Action Short Films, the latter winning that award. They'll play those just to pad out time. But the other thing is, they'll also, other than the word of mouth, maybe the TCM extras, which are those short films, they'll also play the original trailers. Air them as like advertisements. You could like wait for your next movie, and then like you turn on the channel, and then just sometime randomly you'd see a trailer for like a really old film. They don't like try to come up with their own customized commercial. No. They take the original trailer and play it as for like presenting The Apartment, airing on this day at this time. Those are also ones that it's just like, somewhat I record a movie, or at least I have a film recorded on the DVR, I fast forward through it, the commercials a little bit, but then there's times I would maybe tune into the channel live, and then I see a bumper trailer for one of these movies and be like, I might take a look at this. It's one of these reasons why TCM is my favorite. Turner Classic Movies. There have been films, versions they've aired, that have not seen the light of day. Some of these, for the most part, they have, like, had to trim, or at least they only had access to one specific version of the film at one point in time. Like, I know in, like, 2010, one year, they had access to the 1991 version of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Very lengthy, tongueful to say, but that's what made Turner Classic. But seeing that version, it's definitely one that made me, like, actually dig up, find, like, physically in, like, thrift stores or eBay, be like, yeah, this movie interests me. This movie, like, is fascinating. I want to have this on my shelf and view it at, like, any given time. Doesn't matter if I own it physically or if it's playing on Turner Classic Movies. I will still enjoy these films. It's just a lot to take into consideration why Turner Classic Movies is my favorite network. It just has personality. It's, in certain aspects, why this channel, why it sticks out to me, why I will pop up on there and be like, classic film. Oh, I'll set that to record and view it. There is a movie recently that there are some, like, older films I have gotten into. Like, as of this video last year, they had a whole month dedicated to playing films from the Warner Brothers catalog. And I do mean mainly Warner Brothers. And some of them have become my new favorites. Wait Until Dark. That's one example of my new favorite. They aired Woodstock, which I had never seen before. Amazing documentary. Loads and loads of films. And they all play, like, on, like, their Twitter or their YouTube saying, this month on Turner Classic Movies, and they have this, like, this whole big montage set to, like, what they're going to play on that month. One I remember was sometime in October, they had a few comedies on there, but then they also had Hexon, a silent film about, like, witches, and, like, it's hard to explain what Hexon was about, but it was, like, far out there. And they all, like, they had that montage, they recorded it, they had it all set to, like some licensed song. Like, for this one, they played it against, like, Little Red Riding Hood by Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. And it's like, that is what... I love that. I love that. They also have their own, like, little in memoriams. The TCM Remembers, they'll put at the end of the year. And it's like, they're magical. They... like, it's really heartbreaking. It can tug at the heart. Even make, like, the most strongest of mans break into tears upon first viewing. All I have to say about Turner Classic Movies is, you played a big part in my life. I wouldn't have discovered all these vintage movies and saw my love and passion of them without this network. Happy 30th anniversary to the channel. And hands down, here's to another 30 years. Cheers.